On July 24, 2026, a husband shot and killed his wife, Amanda, along with their 6 children. The youngest was just 5 years old, the oldest was 15. After that, he set multiple fires inside the family home before taking his own life. When firefighters arrived, there was no one left to save. To understand this tragedy, we first have to understand the family at the center of it. The murders took place in Grand Haven Township, a quiet community on Michigan's western shoreline, where neighborhoods are known for their parks, good schools, and close-knit families. Like many suburban communities, it's a place where families put down roots, raise their children, and enjoy a quieter pace of life. The home belonged to Kristopher Karolkiewicz, 47 years old, his wife Amanda, known to friends as Mandy, 39, and their 6 children. The children ranged in age from just 5 years old to 15. Together, the couple were raising 4 biological children and 2 adopted daughters. Like many growing families, their lives revolved around school, work, church, and their children. She and Kristopher first met in 2008 while working for the same beverage company. They started dating soon afterwards and married in 2009. Over the following years, their family continued to grow. Professionally, Kristopher built a career in sales and marketing. Most recently, he served as Vice President of Sales and Marketing for the American Heart Association. Amanda chose a different path. She worked as a substitute teacher, spending her days with children from the local community. School officials later remembered her as compassionate, patient, and someone who genuinely cared about her students. Outside work, much of the family's life appeared ordinary. Amanda occasionally wrote about family life online. She shared stories about raising 6 children, the challenges of parenting, and moments she was proud of. Years earlier, she even described Kristopher as a loving and devoted father, writing that her children had an example of a selfless parent at home. Kristopher also posted publicly about his family, describing himself as fortunate and expressing gratitude for the life they had built together. To friends, co-workers, and people who only knew the family from the outside, they appeared to be another busy American family, trying to balance careers, parenthood, and everyday life. Nothing publicly suggested that only a few years later, their names would make national headlines. July 24, 2026, at around 8:30 that morning, someone in Ottawa County reported the smell of smoke. Fire crews responded and searched the surrounding neighborhood, but they couldn't locate the source. With no sign of a fire, they returned to service. A few hours later, another emergency call came in. This time, white smoke was seen coming from a home on Riverside Trail in Grand Haven Township. Fire engines were dispatched immediately. As crews arrived, smoke was pouring from the house. They forced their way inside and began searching room by room. Instead of finding people waiting to be rescued, they found bodies. One after another, inside the home were Kristopher Karolkiewicz, his wife, Amanda, and all 6 of their children. There was no one left to save. The fire was eventually brought under control, but the mission had already changed. What began as a house fire was now a homicide investigation. Detectives, crime scene investigators, and forensic specialists were called to the scene. Over the following days, autopsies, forensic examinations, and evidence collected from the home would reveal that the fire was only the final chapter of what had happened inside. In the days that followed, investigators worked to reconstruct what had happened inside the Karolkiewicz home. Crime scene investigators carefully examined the house. Fire investigators worked to determine where the fire had started. Medical examiners performed autopsies on all 8 family members. As the evidence came together, a clearer picture began to emerge. According to the Ottawa County Sheriff's Office, Amanda Karolkiewicz and the couple's 6 children all died from gunshot wounds. Kristopher Karolkiewicz also died from a gunshot wound, which investigators determined was self-inflicted. Investigators concluded that Kristopher Karolkiewicz fatally shot his wife and their 6 children before taking his own life. Before his death, investigators say he deliberately set multiple fires throughout the family home. With no evidence of forced entry, no signs of another suspect, and no indication that anyone else had been involved, the Ottawa County Sheriff's Office announced that investigators believed the case was a murder-suicide. For investigators, the sequence of events was becoming clear, but one question still remained: why? As investigators continued piecing together the family's background, another discovery began attracting public attention. Years earlier, Amanda had written anonymously on Reddit under the username MandyK1179. After the tragedy, those posts were widely reported by multiple news organizations and quickly became one of the most discussed aspects of the case. In those posts, Amanda described what she said were growing problems inside her marriage. She alleged that Kristopher had been unfaithful. She wrote that learning about the affair left her devastated. She also explained that she had considered ending the marriage. But according to Amanda, she ultimately decided to stay. One reason, she wrote, was their children. She believed keeping the family together was the best decision for them. These were Amanda's personal statements, written years before the murders. They were never examined in court, and investigators have not said they establish a motive for the killings. But after the tragedy, they became one of the few public records offering Amanda's own perspective on her marriage. By the end of the investigation, authorities believed they had reconstructed what happened inside the home. According to investigators, Kristopher Karolkiewicz shot and killed his wife, Amanda, and their 6 children, before setting multiple fires throughout the house and taking his own life. But understanding what happened isn't always the same as understanding why. As of the publication of this video, authorities have not publicly identified a specific motive behind the killings. Investigators have also not said whether Kristopher left behind a suicide note or any written explanation for his actions. Authorities have not publicly released evidence indicating whether the attack had been planned in advance, nor have they identified any single factor that fully explains what led to the tragedy. Amanda's Reddit posts offered one perspective on the struggles inside her marriage. They reflected how she viewed her relationship in the years before the tragedy, but they were Amanda's personal account, not a definitive explanation for what happened on July 24th. Following the tragedy, Amanda's family released a public statement. They described her as a kind and devoted person who loved both her family and her students. They said every moment shared with Amanda and her 6 children had been treasured, and that words could not fully express their devastation. They also asked for privacy as they grieved, while honoring the lives of Amanda and her children. As news of the tragedy spread, tributes began appearing across the community. Schools remembered the 6 children. Organizations that had worked with Amanda, including the American Heart Association, shared messages honoring her compassion, dedication, and service. Friends, neighbors, and members of the community left flowers, messages, and memorials for the family. Ultimately, only one person knew exactly what happened inside that home on the morning of July 24th, and that answer may never be fully known. Although investigators have announced their conclusions, the investigation remains active as authorities continue processing evidence and completing their work. If there are any significant official developments or new information released in this case, I'll cover them in a future video here on the channel. Thank you for watching.